In November 2022, a machine broke every record. 1 million users in 5 days, and the world called it intelligence. For months, headlines cheered the birth of a new age, while companies plunged headlong into what seemed like the most explosive boom of the century. But the force that ignited the era of thinking machines is also hiding the one flaw that could unravel it all. If the AI bubble fooled the entire world, what are we still missing about our faith in code? ChatGPT reached 1 million users in just 5 days. That number, once reserved for viral games and blockbuster apps, now belonged to a machine that could write poems, code, and emails on command. By early 2023, the adoption curve of ChatGPT had left Instagram, TikTok, and every previous tech launch in the dust. The surge was not just about curiosity. It was a stampede. Schools scrambled to rewrite homework policies. Startups rebranded overnight, adding AI powered to every pitch deck. Venture capital firms funneled billions into anything with a chatbot or a neural net. OpenAI, once an academic curiosity, became the center of the tech universe. Microsoft doubled down, announcing a $10 billion partnership and integrating GPT models into its Azure cloud. Google, caught off guard, declared a code red and rushed out Bard, its conversational AI, to avoid being left behind. Within weeks, headlines spoke of a new arms race. Major tech companies shifted entire roadmaps to prioritize AI, with teams working around the clock to catch up or stay ahead. Behind the numbers, the mood was electric and anxious. For every new million users, another company pivoted, another investor wrote a bigger check. Another product manager lost sleep wondering if their job would soon be automated away. The scale was dizzying. By March, ChatGPT's monthly active users topped 100 million. Copycat products flooded app stores and browser extensions. AI-generated art and essays trended on social media. The world's largest companies and smallest startups all chased the same promise: intelligence on demand, at a speed no one had seen before. The spark had caught. In boardrooms and bedrooms, people wondered if they were watching the birth of a new kind of mind or just the start of a new kind of mania. In the rush to adopt, few paused to ask what everyone was really trusting and what might be lost in the stampede. Long before anyone typed a prompt into ChatGPT, the question of machine intelligence haunted the brightest minds. In 1950, Alan Turing published a paper in the journal Mind that asked, without hesitation, "Can machines think?" He sidestepped the philosophical maze and instead proposed a simple test: the imitation game. If a machine's answers could fool a human into thinking it was another person, Turing argued, the line between mind and mechanism would begin to blur. He predicted that by the end of the 20th century, computers would be able to imitate human conversations so convincingly that even skilled interrogators might be deceived. But the roots of this debate stretch even deeper, back to the 17th century. René Descartes, wrestling with the nature of consciousness, imagined the body as a kind of intricate automaton, a machine of gears and levers, pulleys and pipes. Thais. For Descartes, only the human mind stood apart, unreachable by mechanical imitation. Yet his vision planted the seed. If the body could be explained as a mechanism, why not the mind? Turing's challenge and Descartes' metaphor echo through every new breakthrough. Each leap forward, whether a chess computer, a chatbot, or a headline-grabbing demo, revives the same question. Are we witnessing the emergence of a new intelligence, or just the perfection of imitation? The excitement around modern AI is not just technical, but philosophical. It is the old urge to see ourselves in our creations, to grant machines the spark of mind, even as we debate where that spark begins and ends. This fascination with artificial minds is not a quirk of the digital age. It is the latest chapter in a centuries-old story, where every advance in machinery tempts us to redraw the boundary between human and machine. The rush to believe in thinking computers is not only about what technology can do, but about what we want to see reflected back from the mirror of our inventions. In 1966, inside a cramped lab at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, Joseph Weizenbaum unveiled a program called Eliza. It ran on a hulking mainframe, yet its script was simple, a digital psychotherapist that replied to typed statements with questions. A user would type, "I am unhappy," and Eliza would reply, "Why do you say you are unhappy?" The effect was immediate and strange. Even knowing the program's limitations, people poured out secrets, frustrations, confessions. Some returned day after day, convinced the computer understood them. Weizenbaum watched with growing unease. He later wrote that no matter how well structured, Eliza understood nothing. Decades before ChatGPT, Eliza revealed a powerful quirk in human psychology, the urge to see intention, empathy, and thought in anything that talks back. Psychologists call this anthropomorphism, the projection of human qualities onto non-human things. But Eliza's transcripts showed something deeper. Users did not just play along, many felt genuinely heard. Weizenbaum wrote that they were deceiving themselves. Lab studies since the 1970s have confirmed this effect again and again. When a machine mimics conversation, the brain interprets it as social presence. Researchers found that even basic chatbots could trigger trust, emotional disclosure, and friendship in test subjects. A study from 1966 recorded that over half described the program as understanding or thoughtful, despite knowing it was just a script. Later experiments showed that people judged AI-generated advice as more neutral and reliable than human advice, especially when delivered in an authoritative tone. Cognitive psychologist Sherry Turkle observed that convenience masquerades as comprehension. The easier a machine is to interact with, the more likely people are to believe it understands. By the time ChatGPT and its peers arrived, the groundwork had been laid. The illusion of mind was not just a technical trick, but a cognitive reflex. The machine on the other side of the screen became a mirror for hopes, fears, and desires, regardless of what was actually happening in the code. Weizenbaum's warning lingers in the background of every AI conversation today. The real leap is not just in silicon, but in psychology. The Eliza effect shows how easily belief takes hold, long before the media amplifies the myth. The urge to trust, to compete, to see a mind where there is only pattern is not a bug of the digital age. It is a feature of being human. By January 2023, the news cycle had become a relentless drumbeat. Headlines warned of a world on the brink of transformation. AI reaches human parity. Will artificial intelligence replace us all? The age of AGI is here. Magazine covers, morning talk shows, and viral tweets all repeated the same message. Something fundamental had changed. The idea of artificial general intelligence, AGI, once a distant fantasy, now filled op-eds and investor briefings. Sam Altman, OpenAI's CEO, spoke freely about AGI timelines, fueling both AWE and anxiety. In interviews, he described AI as a force that could outthink and outcreate its makers. Tech journalists raced to outdo each other with predictions of digital immortality, conscious machines, and a future where software would write its own code and run entire companies overnight. The fear of missing out took hold. If the next leap in intelligence was happening right now, who could afford to be left behind? Companies scrambled to show they were AI first. Influencers posted daily threads about prompt engineering and the coming singularity. At conferences, keynote speakers invoked the arrival of a new species, one born in silicon, destined to surpass its creators. Investment newsletters promised fortunes for those who bet early and warnings for those who hesitated. The AGI myth became a kind of secular prophecy, repeated until it sounded inevitable. But beneath the hype, a quieter voice pushed back. Ada Lovelace, writing in 1843, cautioned that machines can do whatever we know how to order them to perform, but nothing more. Her skepticism echoed in the margins of the frenzy, a reminder that imitation is not creation. Still, her words were drowned out by the volume of the market. Even cautious experts found themselves quoted out of context, their warnings buried under a landslide of optimism and fear. The media's amplification created a feedback loop. Each viral demo, each record-breaking user count, each new round of funding was treated as proof that the age of thinking machines had arrived. The myth grew larger than the code itself. In this environment, belief became contagious. The world wasn't just buying new software, it was buying a story, one headline at a time. Nvidia's name became synonymous with the AI gold rush almost overnight. In early 2022, its market capitalization hovered around $600 billion. Already staggering, but by mid-2024, it had crossed the $1 trillion mark, rivaling the likes of Amazon and Google. The reason was not just clever branding or a new gaming chip. Nvidia's graphics processing units, the engines of modern artificial intelligence, had become essential. Every large language model, every viral chatbot, every image generator racing to market needed thousands of Nvidia chips to train and operate at scale. Quarter after quarter, Nvidia's earnings calls read like dispatches from a new industrial revolution. Orders for its H100 and A100 chips outstripped supply for months. Data center operators and cloud giants placed orders years in advance, desperate to secure inventory. The company's reported backlog ballooned, at times exceeding $20 billion in unfulfilled orders, a figure that dwarfed the annual revenue of many entire industries. By late 2023, analysts estimated that over 80% of all artificial intelligence training workloads ran on Nvidia hardware. The effect rippled through the financial world. Hedge funds, pension managers, and retail traders all piled in, convinced that artificial intelligence would reshape the global economy, and that Nvidia was the only real pick and shovel play. In just 18 months, the company's stock price more than doubled, fueling headlines about the backbone of the digital future. Market cap charts showed a near vertical ascent, with Nvidia briefly becoming the world's third most valuable company. Jensen Huang, once a niche figure in gaming hardware, now fielded questions from heads of state and central bankers about the future of intelligence itself. But the story was larger than any one company. As Nvidia's valuation soared, so did the capital flowing into the entire artificial intelligence supply chain. Chip foundries ramped up production, data center builders broke ground on new facilities, and venture capitalists shifted their attention from software to hardware infrastructure. The demand for graphics processing units became a barometer for the entire sector's health, a single metric watched by investors, analysts, and journalists trying to make sense of the mania. Every quarterly report, every new chip announcement, every rumor of a supply shortage sent shockwaves through global markets. Underneath the euphoria, the numbers told a clear story. The AI boom was not just about clever algorithms or viral apps. It was about a physical foundation, trillions of dollars in chips, servers, and electricity, stacked beneath a digital dream. Nvidia's rise was the most visible measure of just how much capital and how much faith had been funneled into the promise of artificial intelligence. Cloud credits became the secret fuel of the AI boom. In the scramble to build the next unicorn, startups lined up for millions in free compute from Amazon, Microsoft, Google, and CoreWeave. These were not cash investments, but they worked like rocket boosters. Founders pitched investors on explosive growth, showing charts of surging usage and annual recurring revenue. Numbers that looked impressive, but were often built on a foundation of borrowed power. Between 2022 and 2024, the world's biggest cloud providers handed out an estimated $3 to $5 billion in credits each year. Venture funds negotiated special deals. A portfolio company might receive $1 million in AWS credits, another $2 million from Azure, all before writing a single check for real infrastructure. Y Combinator, a 2023 batch alone, distributed over $100 million in credits. Magnetar Capital funneled more than $50 million to generative AI startups through CoreWeave, fueling a burst of activity that appeared, on paper, as sustainable expansion. On financial statements, the effect was transformative. Startups recorded the full value of cloud services as expenses, offset by promotional grants. Gross usage soared, and with it, the all-important annual recurring revenue, the metric investors used to justify billion-dollar valuations. Cloud providers, in turn, recognized revenue only when credits were actually redeemed, counting each burst of test workloads as ecosystem growth. But the cash did not follow. For many, the difference between reported annual recurring revenue and real paying customers was measured in entire orders of magnitude. Venture capitalists and startups embraced the cycle. Credit-driven growth let companies show healthy margins and runway, masking the fact that much of the activity was non-cash. As credits expired, the picture changed overnight. Margins shrank, burn rates spiked, and founders scrambled for new funding to replace what had been essentially a giant marketing subsidy. Auditors and regulators grew wary. By late 2024, the SEC warned against using credit-inflated revenue in initial public offering filings without clear reconciliation to underlying cash flow. The cloud credit trick created a circular economy. Startups spent credits, reported growth, attracted more funding, and repeated the process. For a brief period, it looked like the entire sector was scaling at breakneck speed. But underneath, the numbers told a different story. A market built on non-cash loops, where the line between real demand and promotional spend became almost impossible to see. Rows of humming servers draw power from grids stretched to their limits. In the shadow of the AI gold rush, the world's data centers have become silent giants, their appetite for electricity growing by the hour. By 2024, the International Energy Agency estimated that global data centers consumed about 460 terawatt-hours of electricity each year, more than the entire nation of Sweden. AI workloads now account for at least 10% of that use, and the share is climbing fast. Companies race to build superclusters, each one demanding as much power as a small city. Meta's Iowa complex alone pulls 360 megawatts from the local grid, making it the single largest customer in the region. The combined load of the world's largest AI clusters approaches 2 gigawatts, and utility filings warn that planned expansions will require the equivalent of several new power plants. In some places, residential rates have risen and brownouts loom, all to keep the servers running. But the real cost is not just measured in kilowatts or carbon. Behind every AI-generated paragraph or image, there are thousands of hours of human labor, mostly invisible, mostly ignored. To train and refine large language models, companies rely on armies of data labelers. These workers, often based in Kenya, Uganda, India, and the Philippines, sift through mountains of text and images. Their job is to tag, correct, and filter the raw material that feeds the algorithms. Many are paid less than $2 an hour. Some face daily quotas and relentless monitoring. Others are assigned to review the worst corners of the internet, flagging hate speech, violence, and abuse so that the models can appear safe to the world. The psychological toll is real. Labelers report nightmares, anxiety, and a sense of being disposable. Contracts are short, benefits are rare, and there is little recourse if the work becomes overwhelming. Industry estimates suggest that more than 1 million people now do this work worldwide. Most will never be named in a press release or see their efforts acknowledged in a product launch. Their labor is the hidden scaffolding of the AI boom, propping up the illusion of intelligence on demand. As the market chases bigger models and faster growth, the burden on both the grid and the global workforce grows heavier. The promise of artificial minds comes with a very human price, paid in electricity, sweat, and silence. Errors began to multiply long before the headlines changed. In technical forums and internal chat logs, engineers traded warnings about a creeping problem. Large language models, once celebrated for their fluid prose and encyclopedic recall, were starting to slip. The cause was subtle but devastating. As more of the internet filled with AI-generated content, new models were trained on data that was itself synthetic, echoes of echoes, copies of copies. In controlled benchmarks, accuracy dropped by as much as 20% after just a few cycles of this self-referential training. Models forgot facts, hallucinated answers, and lost their edge. Researchers dubbed it the Habsburg AI problem, a reference to a royal family whose generations of inbreeding led to decline. The code did not break, but the signal decayed. Panic spread inside the startups built on these models. Product teams pushed updates to patch the worst failures, but complaints kept climbing. Users noticed more mistakes, more gibberish, less magic. In leaked memos, executives admitted the models were eating their own tail. The illusion of infinite improvement had run into a wall. The market responded with a brutal logic. Between late 2024 and the end of 2025, over 250 AI startups shut down or were quietly absorbed by larger firms. Many had never moved beyond wrapping a generic language model with a sleek interface. When the core technology faltered, there was nothing left to sell. Layoff trackers logged more than 18,000 jobs lost in the USAI sector over 2 quarters, with engineers and research scientists hit hardest. Some companies cited unexpected model regressions in their exit statements. Others simply vanished. Social feeds frozen mid-pivot. The pressure was not just technical. As model performance plateaued, customer churn accelerated. Investors stopped writing blank checks. The flood of cloud credits that once fueled artificial growth dried up, exposing fragile business models. Burn rates soared. In online forums, displaced engineers swapped stories about vaporized equity and the whiplash of going from unicorn to unemployed in a single quarter. A former founder, voiced tight with regret, described the moment their team realized the numbers were a mirage. We had charts that looked like rocket ships, all built on borrowed compute. The day the credits ran out, so did our runway. And the model, our one real asset, was already starting to break down. For many, the dream of easy AI riches ended not with a bang, but with a slow, grinding loss of faith. The code kept running, but the magic was gone. What remained was a landscape of empty offices, silent Slack channels, and a growing sense that the future had arrived, then quietly slipped away. In December 2023, European lawmakers finalized a sweeping set of rules for artificial intelligence called the EU AI Act. The law did not just target fringe experiments or niche products. It went straight for the heart of the AI boom, foundation models. Suddenly, any company offering large-scale AI in Europe faced strict requirements for transparency, safety, and copyright compliance. Providers were ordered to document their training data, publish risk reports, and submit to third-party audits. The penalties for failing to comply were severe, up to 35 million euros or 7% of global turnover, whichever was higher. For global tech giants, that meant billions at risk for a single infraction. The impact was immediate. In the days after the agreement, share prices of AI firms with heavy European exposure dipped, while broader tech indices kept climbing. Venture capital funding for European AI startups, especially those building or deploying foundation models, shrank by as much as 40% in the first quarter of 2024. Term sheets were pulled. Product launches were delayed or canceled. Startups that once promised world-changing tools now scrambled to rewrite compliance documents or relocate engineering teams outside the EU. Even giants like Google and Microsoft paused the rollout of new AI features in Europe, warning that the cost of compliance and the risk of fines made expansion too risky for now. Inside boardrooms, legal teams pored over the fine print. The law's reach was broad. Any foundation model, no matter where it was built, would be held to EU standards if it touched European users. Companies were required to prove that their models would not cause systemic harm to health, safety, or fundamental rights. They had to show how they handled copyright material and training data, and notify regulators of any serious incidents. The compliance burden ran into the tens of millions for the largest providers. For smaller startups, just meeting the basic requirements could cost $1 million a year, a figure high enough to push many out of the market entirely. Investor calls grew tense. Some funds shifted focus to US or Asian companies, betting that regulatory headwinds would slow European competitors for years. Others demanded business models that could survive in a world where AI was no longer a free-for-all. The chill spread quickly. By mid-2024, layoffs swept through EU-based AI teams, and several high-profile launches were quietly shelved. Reports of GPU surpluses surfaced as demand from once ambitious European startups evaporated. Fire sale prices for hardware replaced the bidding wars of the previous year. Public statements from EU regulators framed the act as a necessary guardrail, a way to protect society from the unchecked power of machine learning. Civil society groups applauded the transparency clauses, but inside the industry the mood was grim. For some, the AI bubble did not just deflate, it was punctured by a legal pen. The promise of infinite growth ran headlong into the reality of policy and oversight. In the aftermath, the question was not just how to build smarter machines, but whether the economics of AI could survive the weight of regulation. In the winter of 1636, a single tulip bulb in Amsterdam could sell for more than a skilled craftsman earned in a year. The Dutch Republic, gripped by tulip mania, saw fortunes rise and vanish overnight. By February 1637, prices collapsed, contracts defaulted, traders ruined, and the rarest bulbs, once worth thousands of florins, became nearly worthless. Historians still debate the causes, but the pattern is clear. Collective belief, unchecked by reality, can inflate any market past its breaking point. The story of the AI bubble fits this ancient template. New technology, like rare flowers or .com stocks, becomes a vessel for hope and speculation. Philosophers have warned against this cycle for centuries. Hubert Dreyfus, writing in the 1970s, challenged the faith in artificial reason, arguing that no machine, no matter how sophisticated, could capture the full depth of human understanding. Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, published in 1818, gave the world its most enduring symbol of technological overreach, a creation that escapes its maker's control, reflecting both ambition and unintended consequence. These warnings are not relics. Each wave of innovation, from clockwork automatons to neural networks, revives the same questions. Are we building new minds, or just new mirrors for our desires? The AI bubble is less an anomaly than a familiar chapter in a much longer human story, one where belief and fear, hope and hubris collide in the marketplace of ideas and inventions. The promise of artificial intelligence was never just measured in lines of code or market valuations. It was built on the hope that machines could shoulder the burdens of thought, creativity, and even care. But beneath the headlines and quarterly earnings, the real weight fell on human shoulders. In survey after survey, engineers and founders described a cycle of exhaustion, 70-hour weeks, missed birthdays, the constant anxiety that one wrong move could erase years of work. Data from late 2024 shows that nearly half of AI startup employees reported symptoms of burnout, a rate far higher than in other tech fields. Some founders, once hailed as visionaries, left the industry altogether, citing the relentless pressure to scale at any cost. The human toll stretched far beyond Silicon Valley. In Nairobi, Manila, and Hyderabad, data labelers spoke of sleepless nights and relentless quotas. One Kenyan worker described reviewing thousands of violent or abusive posts each day, earning less than $2 an hour. Another in the Philippines recounted the isolation of working anonymously for clients she would never meet, her name erased from every dataset. Academic studies linked this invisible labor to increased rates of anxiety, depression, and post-traumatic stress. Yet the work was essential. Without it, the algorithms would falter, the products would fail. Ethics committees and advocacy groups issued recommendations: higher pay, mental health support, and transparency about working conditions. Some companies pledged reforms, but the system proved stubborn. The AI boom, for all its talk of progress, left a trail of broken promises and unseen sacrifices. The illusion was not just in the technology, but in the belief that progress could be separated from its costs. In the end, the bubble was never just in the code. It was in the stories we told ourselves about what machines could do, and what we were willing to ignore to make those stories real. Today, trillions flow into systems that mimic thought, yet the line between machine promise and human fantasy blurs more each day. As regulators scramble and markets tremble, our faith in progress becomes both fuel and flaw. The real risk is not a rogue algorithm. It is forgetting that every bubble is built on hope, not certainty. The next wave of innovation will test not just our technology, but our willingness to question the illusions we most want to believe.